How's it hanging, fellow nerds? Welcome back to Nerd Central, your place for all things nerdy and pop culture. Some fun news and good packs have been lined up for you all, and I am so excited to hop right in. Let's not waste any more time and just dive straight into them. Starting with movie news, first, the new Predator movie, Predator Badlands, has released another trailer that shows the Predator facing off against deadly alien species. Fun fact for those who don't know, the Predator in this movie is no longer the hunter, but is instead the hunted. Pretty crazy. The movie is a standalone sequel to Prey, and it looks like it will be packed with intense fights, bloody action, and so much more. The movie releases next month on November 7th, so go check it out. Then come back here and let us know what you thought of the movie. Up next, we have some news on the new horror movie, Black Phone 2. The director promised fans to have much more blood and gore, and defended the choice by quoting fans who watched the first one, who also watched Terrifier, saying, "We were rated R, and one of the things we got rated R for was gore." The movie releases today on October 17th. So let us know what your thoughts are on the sequel. And finally, to wrap up today's news, we have... Oh, hold on guys, let me take this. Hello? What? No more news? Well, what about anime? Alright, well, sorry about that, guys. Guy upstairs just told me that news is finished since there's not a lot of news out right now. But hey, that gives us much more time for packs, right? Let's have Josh hit us with another Mole Movies pack. Take it away.
Hey everyone, my name is Josh Oswald, and welcome to Mole Movies, where every week I watch a movie that's somewhat underappreciated, underground, or straight up forgotten about, and then I give you my thoughts on them and what I like so much about them. Don't worry, I won't be pulling any 1923 Serbian silent films told from the perspective of a sad shoelace, but we might get there eventually. So with all that out of the way, let's get talking about today's film, The Banshees of Inisherin, directed by Martin McDonagh and released in the US on October 21st, 2022. Set during the Irish Civil War in 1923 on the fictional island of Inisherin, Pádraig Suliban and Colm Doherty are two friends who live on this remote island when Colm suddenly ends the friendship. There's no warning or main argument that caused the conflict. Most residents on the island are surprised at the separation as well. Most of their responses when they find out that Colm's not even with Pádraig is
Colm not with you? No. Colm's always with you. I know.
It's not much, but an effective way to immediately get across just how uncommon it is for these two to be at odds. This is just one example of how the dialogue in this film, while funny, is also extremely key to the messaging and characters. For instance, Pádraig is portrayed in the film as kind-hearted but a little slow, if you know what I mean. He misunderstands or doesn't know words that are faintly advanced, he doesn't really have the most solid common sense, and he's also not good at picking up on nuance. However, the strength hidden in his ignorance is also displayed in his emotion. One of the best scenes in the film is the confrontation between Pádraig and Colm at the island pub. It's an incredibly busy night at the pub and it's packed. The drinks are flowing, music is playing, and Pádraig is still hung up on trying to make things right with Colm. He goes a little overboard on drinking and blows up on Colm in front of everyone, cornering him, and while simultaneously making a fool of himself, also draws a nice distinction between what Colm's ideology about legacy is and simply just what it means to be nice and a nice person. It seems shallow and slightly simple, but ultimately I think it's a deeper message than that. Colm's rationale in this film is the reason he ended the friendship was he felt he was wasting his time talking about nothing with Pádraig and wanted to focus more on his musical legacy. However, someone like Pádraig, who doesn't even bother to familiarize himself with historical figures or tune into generational music compositions, centers himself in the now and the people he knows now, and he remembers many people not for who they were to the world, but for who they were to him. In that scene, he says he doesn't remember Mozart or any of those funny named composers, but he remembers his mom, who was nice, his dad, who was nice, and his sister, who he'll always remember because she was nice. I think with how much global conflict there is nowadays, so many people are focused on their future and the future of the world, they forget to live with the people around them now, and to remember the things going on now. There's so much pointless conflict dredged up in the world reflected in the film through the Civil War, and I think this film highlights something really important for the current day, and that's how to be happy in a world of conflict, where to focus your energy, and how friendship plays a key part in that. However, I'm gonna leave it there. This film is funny and quite symbolic, so watch this where you can and form your own opinion. I would give The Banshees of Inisherin a 10 out of 10, and I highly recommend this to anyone who enjoyed films like Phantom Thread, The Big Lebowski, and Triangle of Sadness. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.
Yet another great pack from Josh. Now let's check out a brand new pack from Hayden, Monster Mash.
What you just saw was Godzilla, arguably the most impactful monster in all of cinematic history. But Godzilla isn't just a monster. He's a reflection of humanity itself. He symbolizes everything from our fear, to our power, to our war, to our hope. Godzilla just evolves alongside us instead of being a monster that we see on the screen. So what makes Godzilla so special to cinema watchers like myself? Let's get right into it. In 1954, Toho Studios released Gojira, a film about the anxiety of nuclear destruction amongst the Japanese people after the bombing of Hiroshima. Godzilla started off as the Japanese nuclear anxiety made flesh, but eventually evolved into so much more. Starting off as this being of destruction, he ended up becoming this environmental protector before becoming the pop icon that we see him as today. Godzilla redefined how we see monsters. Before Godzilla, monsters were just scary entertainment. But after Godzilla, monsters became these metaphors for much greater things. Godzilla inspired stories like Jurassic Park and Attack on Titan, where humans were the cause of their own destruction. Godzilla showed that monsters could be more than just monsters. Godzilla reshaped global storytelling as a whole. It spread beyond Japan, coming to the United States, becoming a cultural phenomenon that we could never have imagined. He inspired the disaster blockbuster genre. Films like Independence Day, Avengers, Pacific Rim, where disasters were shaped into poetry. But Godzilla isn't just a stationary object. Godzilla evolves with us. He started off as this nuclear fear before evolving into pollution and nature, then Cold War dread, globalization of power, before this trauma and survival that we see him as today. Godzilla changes with human history, and that's why he's timeless, because he doesn't just represent this one destructive feature, but he represents what we fear most as a society at that time. Godzilla started off as this nightmarish creature before becoming a hero and finally a storyteller. Monsters aren't just to be feared. They're to be understood. And Godzilla shows that better than any other monster. Every time Godzilla rises, he roars our fears back at us. He's not just destruction. He's our survival story. So remember, monsters may fade, but their meanings never will. So remember Godzilla. Whoa, hey, didn't see you there. So you want to know how we run KNWT? Let me show you.
We strive to improve content week to week.
From weekly entertainment to award-winning documentaries.
We have a little something for everyone.
How do we show this creativity?
Creative Services.
What a great new addition to Nerd Central, Hayden. Glad to see you on the team. Next up, let's see what Isaac's cooking up with Rogues Gallery.
Welcome back again this week, everybody, to another episode of the Rogues Gallery, your favorite spot to break down and analyze famous fictional villains. This week, we will be going back to the 2011 sequel, Kung Fu Panda 2, and we'll be looking at Lord Shen. Shen was born into royalty, and his family were the rulers of Gongyam City in China. His family was not just powerful because they were royal, but because they created fireworks. Shen saw something more in their creation, though. He saw something dark, like power and destruction. He was fascinated in the destruction that could come from something so small. His parents, realizing that there was something wrong about this, went to a soothsayer. They wanted to see if they could figure something out about their son's dark obsession with their bright creation.
The soothsayer. She foretold that if Shen continued down this dark path, he would be defeated by a warrior of black and white.
Shin overheard his prophecy being read, and he didn't like what he had to hear, so he took matters into his own hands. Hearing that a warrior of black and white was destined to defeat him, he assumed that this meant someone of panda descent. So he went and committed a mass genocide on all villages of pandas. He assumed in doing this that he would stop his prophecy from coming true and that nothing would be able to get into his way. When he came back to Gangnam City, he was met with something he didn't expect. His family was very shocked at what he even did, so much that it caused them to banish them. Doing this caused his parents to be so heartbroken that they later died from grief. After being banished and thinking that his family betrayed him, he decided that he was going to conquer all of China. He immediately started working and continuing to weaponize his parents' creation. Unknowingly to Shin, his genocide was only an attempt. There was a lucky baby who was able to survive, and he actually became the Dragon Warrior, a warrior of black and white. He was the one remaining chance to get in Shin's way and make that prophecy come to life. While this surviving panda was growing up and mastering the art of Kung Fu, Shin had mastered and created a weapon of mass destruction. After reclaiming Gangnam City, he quickly started to take over and invade all of China. Hearing what Lord Shin was doing to China, the panda decided that he was going to go try to stop him. Once he finally reached China, Shin was now face to face with his prophecy. In the end, they would end up having an epic battle in which Lord Shin would fall, causing his own prophecy to come to life. The dynamic of Shin's self-fulfilling prophecy set his own demise in motion from the very beginning, not even realizing it. Thank you for showing up again this week to another episode of the Rogues Gallery. Shin was always one of my favorite villains when I was a kid, and I hope I cover one of your guys' favorite villains this season as well.
What a pack, Isaac. I didn't know that much about Shin. That was pretty fun. Now, let's learn about some new pop culture stuff. Let's see what's going on with Nick's News Pack.
Hello, and welcome to the Content Report, the show where I talk about social media content, commercials, TV shows, movies, and everything in between. I'm Nicholas Givens, and this week we'll be talking about a commercial that was ubiquitous on television back in the 1990s. It's the very first Muzzy language course commercial. Before we get into the commercial itself, I would like to discuss the product it's advertising since I have the course on DVD in German. Muzzy, or Muzzy in Gondoland, is a 1986 animated musical film produced by the British Broadcasting Corporation that tells the story of the titular clock-eating alien who shows up to the Kingdom of Gondoland from space. The film was initially made by the BBC to teach children English. Sometime later, Daniel Mallow Productions got the rights to it, dubbed the film in other languages, and put it on VHS, which is how we ended up with this.
Je suis la jeune fille. Yes, that's French they're speaking, and no, these children aren't French, they're American. And they've acquired their amazing new language skills from Muzzy.
It should be noted that this commercial came out in 1989, but ran into the 1990s. Long story short, this is a memorable advertisement because it promoted young audiences to not only start learning French and other languages, but also was effective at getting results. If I was a kid of the 1990s, hell, I would beg and plead with my folks to buy this course to the tune of $29.95 per month for 5 months until they owned it outright, which means that $150 in 1990 dollars would equate to about $400 today, or just about the average cost of a 3-credit-hour foreign language course at an American community college, so not a bad deal. In addition to becoming a 1990s pop culture phenomenon, Muzzy and the BBC also paved the way for language learning to happen at home instead of in a school classroom. And this trend continues. With over 500 million registered accounts and nearly 50 million daily users, apps like Duolingo are still riding the language at home wave that Muzzy began. That's where I'm going to stop for today. Next week, we will be paying tribute to the late actress Dame Patricia Routledge after her untimely passing at the age of 96 by talking about the BBC comedy that put her on America's radar, Keeping Up Appearances.
For over 100 years, the Northwest Missourian has been the cornerstone of campus life and the greater Maryville community, covering topics that have shaped our society and capturing the history of Northwest Missouri's life. the award-winning publication continues to act as a primary source of topical news, spanning several generations of college students. The Northwest Missourian, covering campus and community.
3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new season of Bearcat Update. I'm your new host, Hayden LaValle. Now, I'm not the only new face you'll be seeing on Bearcat Update this season. BCU with the X has rebranded to Weekend Sports Report. Northwest Missourian sports writer Olivia Wallace will join Wiley Ray as they bring you live, in-depth analysis and play breakdown. For this and so much more, and to stay up to date on all the latest happenings in Northwest sports, tune in to Bearcat Update every Sunday at 2 p.m.
Man, what a great pack, Nick. I never knew about that commercial. This kind of reminds me of a monster truck. Oh, that reminds me. Why don't we see what Wiley's doing in today's pack? I believe he's talking about Captain's Curse.
In the world of monster trucks, sheer power draws the crowd. But to leave a legacy, you need heart, presence, a signature style. Welcome back to Legend of Destruction. And today we hoist the sails and bring you the pirate-themed terror of Captain's Curse. Captain's Curse first sailed in a Monster Jam on March 24, 2007, making its debut at World Finals 8, immediately claiming the Freestyle Championship in its first outing under Pablo Huffaker. It wasn't just a new truck, it was a shakeup. Donning a 1941 Willys body and wrapped in pirate flair, bones, sails, and skulls, Captain's Curse was built to stand out. Its hardware was serious too. A 540 CI Merlin engine paired with a Cone 2-speed transmission. After its explosive debut, the torch passed to Alex Blackwell in 2008, who piloted Captain's Curse through nearly a decade of competition. Under Blackwell, the truck became a staple in both racing and freestyle events, regularly appearing in World Finals. One of the truck's most infamous moments came at World Finals 10. With brakes overheating, Blackwell tried to control the run, but when the truck failed to stop, he intentionally flipped it to avoid a head-on crash into the wall. The truck flew into the stands, though fortunately in a closed-off section, and no fans were hurt. That dramatic flip remains one of the sport's most talked about crashes. In 2013, it resurfaced in a blacked-out inverted scheme, even sporting the tailgate motto, "Fear the Curse." It continued to play that pirate role until its final event in Stockholm, Sweden, November 12, 2016. Though retired from competition, Captain's Curse still lives on, through diecasts, video games, and fan memory. Its swagger, its style, its audacity, it all left an imprint on the sport. Captain's Curse wasn't just a monster truck, it was a spectacle, a pirate in a sea of beasts, a legend with swagger, danger, and flair. Its sails may have been lowered, but its legacy still rules the waves of monster truck lore. This was Legends of Destruction, Captain's Curse.
What a pack, Wiley. I think that might be my favorite monster truck. Anyway, next pack is, well, me. Well, why did you come along with me? Well, hello there, and welcome back to Now Screaming. Today's movie is one that might intrigue you, interest you in a way you didn't know possible, maybe even lead you to question your own beliefs. For example, if I told you to watch this movie, would you actually do it? Would you watch something simply because I made a little video to prove my point? If you liked it, is it because you actually enjoyed it? Or did you simply trick your mind into believing that it was good? It's so interesting how we can let people's opinions influence the way that we think. It's pretty fascinating, don't you think? What was I talking about? Oh yes, today's movie is Heretic. Heretic is a 2024 psychological thriller written and directed by both Scott Beck and Brian Woods. Talk about a dynamic duo. This original screenplay is focused around two young missionaries who are going door to door talking with people and end up meeting a somewhat unsettling middle-aged man who welcomes them into his house. The girls are wary of the idea, but after enough convincing, finally enter his home. After a long conversation with the man, it is revealed to the girls that this guy might have other things in mind. You follow these girls as they are led further into this strange man's house and are forced to listen to his lecture about their own religious beliefs. This movie's a slow one that takes its time building up suspense before we finally see the real intentions of our unsettling antagonist. I really enjoyed this movie for its boldness in subject matter, the unusual pacing, and up to interpretation ending. Now without further ado, let's get into the PGS scale. Plot. Heretic is not afraid to take its time getting to know its small cast of characters. This movie honestly prides itself with much more dialogue than any kind of action. That isn't to say things aren't interesting later on, but the story is pretty slow and methodical in its approach. 4 out of 5. Gore. As I mentioned before, this movie is patient with its action sequences. It is nearly impossible to talk about gore without revealing too much about how things play out, but I'll say this much. The movie is pretty light with any bloody sequences, so if you're squeamish, I wouldn't worry too much. It does, however, offer an incredible, unexpected kill that stuck with me for a while. 3 out of 5. Scares. I found this movie scary in a different way than I normally do. I wasn't afraid of what things would jump out at me or what disturbing events might occur, but instead what our antagonist was going to do next. His performance entirely carries the fear factor of this movie, and I believe he killed it. 3 out of 5. That gives Heretic a PGS rating of 3.3 out of 5. And that was all for this episode of Now Screaming. Be mindful of what you believe in, and I'll see you next time. Man, what another great pack, if I do say so myself. Well, looks like that's the end of this episode of Nerd Central. If you liked it, be sure to leave a comment down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to never miss another upload from us. Well, looks like that's all for me, so just remember, stay nerdy!